Hey guys, this is TJ here from the Hyper Coliseum crew. You might know me. I've just really been part of the podcasts. I'm the guy that talks a lot and wears a hat. I figured I'd go ahead and do a deck profile real quick for you. Ben usually is the one doing this sort of stuff, and he does an amazing job. I know he's really sort of refined how he puts them out. I'm going probably a little bit more old school with just sort of showing you guys the physical cards here. Yeah, if you've seen the title for the video, I won Store Champs about a month and a half ago now. This video is very delayed. It is very overdue. I should have done this a long time ago, but I have been crazy busy. And whenever I did have the time, I just did not have the energy to do anything. I played Shine. I got first place with it at the Store Champs, and my matchups, I don't remember the first two rounds, but my last two rounds were Red Hybrid. Let's see. Oh no, actually I do remember one of the. It was a 4 rounds total. I don't remember my first round matchup, but second round was Belphamon, third round was Red Hybrid, and then fourth round was a Shine Mirror. But yeah, I like very sort of mid-range control-y decks. This deck is very much, it has a little bit of that, but very OTK. That's really just how Shine plays right now. It's very much an OTK deck. But yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into the profile here. So to start off, I run four BT13 yellow Koromon. So this is probably going to be the most sort of like unusual choice, maybe is the best way to put it. I know a lot of people prefer the red draw Koro, and it makes complete and total sense. It's a good egg to use for the deck. I just, like I said kind of before leading into this, I prefer a little bit more control in my decks, and I find that I'm not usually swinging with my Greymon stacks that often, just because it's risky and the game's so fast at this point in the meta that it's very hard to sort of find an opportunity to really swing with that level of risk that it's going to bring 9 times out of 10. So I have this, which is inheritable. Whenever one of your yellow red tamers becomes suspended, you're gonna go ahead and -1 KDP on one of your opponent's Digimon. So he's good, and I run a full yellow base for this too, so it works out pretty well. Next up, I run 4 BT12 Agumon here. He is your bread and butter searcher for the deck. He's going to find you all the pieces that you need. He grabs your Greymons and your Marcus, and on top of that, he also is his inheritable is going to go ahead and -2 KDP on one of your opponent's Digimon whenever one of your yellow or red tamers becomes suspended. So that's the whole theme for Shine Gray, right? Where a lot of your effects activate when your Marcus becomes suspended, whether it be him swinging or your BT13 Marcus on play to suspend itself to do something. It gives you a lot of different sort of ways to kind of navigate your plays for either to just try and control board or further your game plan into the your aggression. Next up, I run 4 EX4 Agumon. EX4 Agu is probably the best Digivolve target about 9 times out of 10. Start of your main phase, if you have a yellow or red tamer in play, you'll go ahead and gain a memory. So you can go ahead and kind of circumvent the cost of your BT12 Marcus wanting to move up and become a Digimon for the turn. And on top of that, his inheritable is going to go ahead and draw you a card whenever one of your yellow or red tamers becomes suspended. So I know some people like to run Agu X, and I think this is the one they usually cut down on a little bit. That or they'll cut down on the BT13 Agu, which is totally reasonable. It makes sense. I mean, he does have dinosaur in traits, so he doesn't incur any extra cost for your Geograves, any additional search for the deck. So he's definitely an option you can use. However, I would use that if you were running a red base, and since I'm not running a red base, I opted to try and just keep things more consistent because consistency tends to want to hurt me. After that, we have 4 BT13 Agumon to round out our rookie lineup. So I only run the 12 rookies. I don't find that I need more than that. The deck runs pretty fine on its own. Past that, this Agumon though is I cannot sell this Agumon enough, dude. The amount of games I have won because of his main effect is it's a good amount. The amount of times I have I've gone for my checks, I've swung, I'll blow out like all 5 security in a turn, but I'll just be missing that last swing for game. And I'll have to pass turn, but I would have hopefully controlled board enough to where my opponent's just having to try and rebuild something. And next turn, if they set me to 3 or I have my memory setter Marcus out, I will just go ahead and just play this Agumon, move the Marcus up, and have Marcus swing for game. If as long as he doesn't have any sort of like summoning sickness or anything like that. But yeah, he's fantastic for that. And then his inheritable to go ahead and delete something with 3k DP or less. Or Digimon with 3000 DP or less when one of your yellow or red terminals becomes suspended is just huge. It's very good. It makes up the sort of distance that you might be missing when you are minusing so much DP with this deck. So it still acts well enough in the interest of helping you control board and keep your stack alive if your opponent's playing a little bit risky in the front. That's it for rookies. Moving on to level 4s. I run 2 BT13 ShineGreymon. This Geogray is what I'm considering bumping up to 3. The card he's good. He is a good card. His 1 Digivolving effect to go ahead and play a Marcus if you don't have one in play is, it's a solid effect, but the only reason I don't run more of him and wasn't running more of him at the time of the store champs, and for all the times that I played the deck before that, was I usually, a lot of times as I got more practiced with the deck, I found that the best turn 1 play most of the time is just going into an Agu in the back and then hard playing a Marcus. Just because, and I think this is a mistake that I see some Shine players make, is they maybe tunnel vision too much on trying to resolve either his effect or the BT13 Geogray's effect to get a tamer out, and they put themselves at risk of losing their stack and having to rebuild when they're possibly missing pieces in hand to really make a new stack. Just because you're looking at that free tamer play and you sort of just focus too hard on that. So I only ran 2. The only reason I would really consider it run 3 isn't so much for his 1 Digivolving effect, but really it's the your turn effect or inheritable, where when one of your yellow or red terminals becomes suspended, you're gonna go ahead and minus 2k. So it's the same inheritable as the BT12 Agu. But the extra DP minus, like stacking, like if you stack this, this, and this, that's already minus 5k right there. On top of whatever else you're going to minus as well, you can very easily pop level 5s and level 6 Digimon very quickly when you have all those effects stacked. Next level 4 I run is 4 EX4 ShineGreymon. He is the pretty much carbon he's the exact same effects as the EX4 Agu, where he's going to gain you the memory when you start a main phase, when you have a yellow return play, and he's going to draw you a card for inheritable. He just, he's the next step up where it's just going to be more convenient for you climbing your line when you do push up out of raising, and are ready to make that play. So he's a good card. He is what I would probably consider cutting down to 3 of to put this to 3, because I have currently a 10 count lineup, for, the level 4s in my deck. But that being said, I've considered possibly, bumping it up to 11, with another card that I'll go over in a little bit here. Just a card that I've debated on cutting. And to round out our level 4 lineup, though, we're going to go ahead and talk about probably arguably the most broken card in the deck. This ShineGreymon is such a balance issue. Like, he's a good card. Yellow has needed some good cards for a while. And I think yellow does have a decent kit right now, like as a color. Obviously he's red yellow, but if anything, I think yellow struggles more on having an aggressive game plan outside of Shine. Like Kentaros is a bit slow, Venus Lock is very stally, yellow hybrid's very stally. A lot of those game strategies are just very sort of stall my opponent out and chip away, but it doesn't work super well in the current meta, because they still have a lot of other issues. But anyways, that's a conversation for another day. This ShineGreymon is going to go ahead, when he's Digivolving, he's going to go ahead and search your security stack. So you're going to get security knowledge for the first thing, which is huge. Then you're going to be able to play out a tamer from that security. And I don't think he specifies color. I think it's just you play 1 red or yellow tamer. He does specify color. Okay. It's been a minute. But yeah, he's going to go ahead and play out a red or yellow tamer. And and then their on play effects will resolve. So if it is like a Zoe for yellow hybrid or a TK, you'll be able to, or beat like BT1 TK, you'll be able to resolve those on play effects. And it's super good. And then you'll go ahead and you'll recover a card and then shuffle your security. So he's gonna go ahead for at most 3. In Shine Gray, most of the time is gonna be 2, or depending on how you have your deck built. Because I don't run like any Kudamon or anything like that. Like in this variant of the deck, it's always gonna be 2. You'll get security knowledge. You'll get hopefully tamer advantage unless you whiff, which does happen. But it's I mean, even then, even if you whiff, the security knowledge can be big on its own. And then you're going to go ahead and recover a card if you do play out the tamer, which will then, allow you to cycle your security and possibly toss an option in there, or a bigger DP body that could potentially save you the game because your opponent will check too early, thinking they need to like risk some early aggression. And then they just get punished for it. And then you'll shuffle your security, obviously. So that's going to help sort of mix it up in case your security was maybe sort of stacked in a bad way when you, before you got to take a peek at it. Obviously you can't do that. That'd be cheating if you were like stacking it in your favor, but if you're truly randomizing it, it might end up on your side. But yeah, he is a very, very good card, and he's definitely like the best level 4 in this deck by far. And for inheritable, he does the same thing that BT13 Agu does. There's sort of a theme where each of the Geograys have the same inheritable as the Agu, which is fine. It's definitely been a running sort of theme for Bandai recently, where they just sort of have the level 4s and 3s be very similar with their inheritables, and then the level 5 is really where it starts to sort of divvy up, and then of course you have your boss monster with level 6s or 7s. But yeah, that's it for level 4s. Moving on to level 5s here. Have 4 BT12 Rise Gray. He is the second best Rise Greymon in my opinion. So he's a 4 cost normally, 3 cost over a Geo Gray, and normally he's gonna honestly just be a 2 cost because he has 1 Digivolving. If you have a yellow or red tamer in play, you're gonna gain a memory. So he's very, very good for helping you extend your plays or choking your opponent. And he also has the All Turns effect, and the inheritable is the same as his All Turns effect, where when a red or yellow tamer dies or is deleted, Jesus, that was a little bit hardcore. Sorry. You're going to go ahead and place a Marcus Damon from your trash on top of your security. Which really the card reads then that when one of your Marcuses is deleted, you're going to go ahead and put that Marcus back into security. And the cool thing too is that because the Alternates effect is his own effect, but then he also has an inheritable, that if you swing with a Marcus while it's just a Rise Gray on board, it gets deleted and goes in security. And then you Digivolve and you have another Marcus that's on board that can swing. The inheritable will go ahead and proc, and that Marcus will also go into security if he, for some reason, is deleted when swinging in there. So you'll recover 2 cards right then and there, depending on how you line up the plays. So he's very good for that. But I only think he's second best to the BT13 Rise Gray, because the BT13 Rise Gray has 1 Digivolving. He's going to go ahead and play out a Marcus Damon. Regardless of whether you have one on board or not. So a lot of times, and I think this is, I think most people will notice this or probably have realized this at this point, but a lot of the top decks are decks that can play tamers out for free, where they don't incur a cost for getting that tamer out on board, and the tamers usually just net them usually memory advantage or some other powerful sort of board control effect to really help support their game plan. So being able to just spit out a Marcus for free when Digivolving, and he can still be a 2 cost Evo as well, outside of having these same, main cost and alternate cost, or regular cost and alternate cost. If you play out the BT13 Marcus off of him, the BT13 Marcus can on play suspend himself, and then all turns he'll minus 3 KDP to one of your opponent's Digimon, and then he'll gain you a memory if you have a Digimon with Agumon or Greymon in its name in play. So that it really, really sort of shoes it all in and puts it all together, and is very, very helpful for the deck. And then he has the same all turns effect and inheritable as the BT12 Rise Gray. There is an argument to run like 1 or 2 copies of the BT9 Rise Gray X. It is a good card. I feel like I see a lot of times, and from what testing I did do with it, I would so often find that card, and I would be in a position where I'd have to make a play because I'm behind. Because I was already trying to find a level 5, and he's the one that I find. And that I'm just sort of shit out of luck, and I've probably lost the game at that point because he's going to be too expensive to evo. He's not going to net me enough of an advantage to really make him worth it. And even in the times where I do see plays work out with him involved, he usually is just sort of a middle piece that doesn't usually do the most, can be helpful, but it's so inconsistent with his actual assistance. So that's why I chose not to run him. I just chose to be consistent in making sure that I always had these all turns, inheritables, and effects available to me because they are so important to the deck. And that's it for level 5s. Moving on to level 6s. I run 4 BT12 ShineGreymon. Tanama Kanji killed it with this art. It looks so beautiful. I love it so much. He is a 4 cost to evo normally, 3 cost over a level 5 with or level 5 rise or level 5 Digimon with Rise Greymon in its name. And when Digivolving, he's going to go ahead and minus 3 KDP on one of your opponent's Digimon, and then he'll go ahead and minus an additional 3K to all of your opponent's security Digimon for each yellow and or red tamer you have in play. So that, you know, you can very easily, when combined with the rest of your DP minusing effects, very quickly climb over and delete your opponent's boss monsters. And the minusing security is huge because it helps your Marcus survive when it's doing its checks, or when he's doing his checks. And then on top of that, he has the your turn effect of all of your Marcus Damon gain plus 3 KDP and security attack plus 1. And now keep in mind too, because I've seen this mistake made a few times as well, that your turn effect isn't like a gain for the turn. That only persists so long as ShineGreymon is the top card of that stack. The second you go into burst mode or he gets Digivolved down to a Rise Gray, they no longer have that security attack plus 1 and the plus 3 KDP. And so, like, if you're mid swing on checks with him and he does the first check, something happens to that stack, then it just stops there. The second check doesn't go through anymore. That's it, because he lost the key. He lost the bonus. But yeah, so he's your main sort of like boss monster for like aggression to like, or at least to like start off the aggression before you make your burst mode play. The other level 6 I run is 2 BT13 ShineGreymon. He's definitely much more of a defensive option. He can still work in sort of an aggressive manner sometimes, because he has 1 Digivolving and start of your main phase. One of your Marcus Damon becomes a 3k DP Digimon that gains blocker until the end of your opponent's next turn. So he's very, very much more focused on being a defensive card, especially that with that effect stacking with his all turns effect too. When one of your yellow red tamers becomes suspended, one of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 6 KDP for the turn. So when you stack that with like BT13 Marcus, you're gonna minus 9k on them. So that means if they're swinging with a 12k body, your BT13 Marcus can block it, and then it will die and it'll just trade with the Marcus. But he can also work out in sort of the aggression sense where he can he can freely just have a Marcus raise up, and you can make a play off of that on following turns, or the turn you go into him, you'll be able to move a Marcus up and possibly make a play. So he works very well, but I think 2 is good. I don't run any of the BT2 ShineGreymon. It's a good card, but I think it's a bit more control focused and has a different strategy than what you're wanting to go for normally with how ShineGrey currently functions as a deck. But he can still work as a tech card. I think he's a decent 1 or 2 of, and you would probably just definitely maybe cut, like if you wanted to run one of them, I'd probably cut one of these first. You could also cut one of these as well and be at 3 and probably be fine, because you're not going to go into more than 2 in a game usually, unless that game is weirdly stally. But with ShineGrey, usually games are over pretty quick. But yeah, that's it for our level 6 lineup. Next up, going to our level 7s, I run 3 ShineGreymon burst modes. I run 3 because I do not trust consistency for myself. I find that I tend to, no matter how consistent I build a deck, I always struggle. So I try to I think 3, I wouldn't run more than 3 ever, but 3 has been a good number for me. It's worked out because there's just been so many times where I'll have like 2 that end up in security, and I'm trying to find that one, and I'll top deck it, and I'll be like, oh, thank goodness, and I'll be able to make the big play and win the game. But yeah, so he is the most busted of all the burst modes, simply for the fact of when you use the burst evo cost, because of his just standard 1 Digivolving effect, he's going to be able to just play out the resource you consumed to play him out. So, you'll bounce the Marcus back to hand. His one Digivolving effect will let you play a Marcus back out, which can be the same Marcus you used for the burst Digivolve cost. And then that Marcus will become a 12k DP Digimon, or will also be treated as a 12k DP Digimon, and has Rush. So, that being paired with the fact that he has the Your Turn effect once per turn, that when one of your yellow returners becomes suspended, you can trash top card of your opponent's security stack. That Marcus is going to play out, swing, trash top card of security because of his effect, and then he'll do his check. And if you did this all in the same turn, which most of the time you will, he'll be swinging in at like pseudo 18 to 21k sometimes, because you'll have minus so much DP on security from your BT12 ShineGrey. But yeah, I mean, he's your finisher. He's like the last piece you're gonna evolve into for the combo when you're doing your big play, where you'll swing your Marcus. You'll have a Rise Gray on board. The Rise Gray will digivolve into BT12 Shine. The Marcus will do 2 checks, either survive or die. Hopefully, if it dies, you have another Marcus in play. If it lives, cool. You can go ahead and then Evo you can burst Evo by bouncing it back to hand, go into burst mode, swing again, trash top, do a check, and that's already 4 checks right there. And then you just swing with this, that's 5 checks. So if you've done 1 chip damage into your opponent, that's game right there. Unless that last option you check is something that's going to clear your ShineGrey stack. If you have another body on board that you just sort of passed turn with prior, or even just another Marcus that was just chilling and waiting to go, again, you're golden. You're good to go. So that's it for him. And then to round out our level 7 lineup, I run 1 copy of ShineGreymon Ruin Mode. This card is very much a tech choice for the mirror match more than anything else. He's also very good against Hunters and Crossheart, because so many of their bodies are just like 4 KDP or less. A lot of their bodies don't climb above 10 KDP unless they're like using their like very big cards, which there's usually not going to have too many of in those decks, because they're definitely focused on more low end aggression. So when digivolving and on deletion, until the end of your opponent's next turn, all of your opponent's Digimon get minus 5,000 DP, which, if you are able to keep turn after digivolving into him, you can then swing with him and use his end of attack effect to delete him and one of your opponent's Digimon, so he's board control. Recover a card, fantastic, keeps you, helps you survive longer in case you're struggling a little bit. And then if you have a Tamer in play, you can hatch a Digi-Egg to an empty space in your breeding area. And then his on deletion effect will go ahead and activate, which will then minus another 5k. So not only is your opponent minus 10k until the end of their next turn, that means anything they would try and push up from raising would instantly be deleted. If they try and play something, it'll instantly be deleted unless they are slamming down something with 11,000 DP or more. It is going to go bye-bye. And an important thing to keep in mind too, any on-play effects that would resolve, so like say that you just get the minus 5k off, they try and on-play a rookie to get some search. The on-play effect will not resolve because it is deleted by game mechanic before the on-play effect can actually like be recognized and seen. So they won't even get to search. Now they can use it to still pass turn if that's their best play to really choke you, but just something to keep in mind for the future. But yeah, that's sort of rounding out our Digimon lineup there. Moving on to Tamers. I'll be a little bit quicker here because I've talked about him so much. We have the star of the show, the Boy Wonder, the Masaru for game, the Punch Boy. 4 BT12 Marcus Damon, and 4 BT13 Marcus Damon. The BT12 Marcus is your main sort of combo initiator, where when he is paired with your Rise Gray stack on board, he's going to be able to swing. Has the Your Turn effect of when he becomes suspended. One of your Digimon can digivolve into a yellow Digimon card with Greymon in its name without paying the cost. So you'll be able to go into your ShineGrey for free, and then he'll instantly gain the plus 3 KDP and the security tech +1. You'll do the DP minusing on the board, yada yada, and all that good stuff. And he has his own sort of start of your main phase effect, where you can pay 1 memory to have him be treated as a 3,000 DP Digimon until the end of your turn. So, he's your kind of go-between for getting your stack going and really showing the aggression. Because the thing with ShineGrey is you really don't swing with ShineGrey much. You, more often than not, are going to be swinging with Marcus. Marcus is like your real, he's your aggressor. And then they'll run the 4 BT13 copies of Marcus because he is your, first of all, memory setter. It's a 5 play cost, which is, pretty steep, but he has the on-play effect where he can suspend himself. And then all turns when he becomes suspended, he'll minus 3,000 DP on one of your opponent's Digimon. And then if you have a Digimon with Agumon or Greymon in name, you'll go ahead and gain a memory. So when paired with different combos that let you play him out, you can digivolve into your level 4s potentially, either the BT12 or the BT13 Geograys for 1. You can go into this Rise Gray for 2. Then just, you know, it all sort of really works out. He combos really well with the deck, and he's a memory setter, like I said before. So, you know, he's going to help you be at that memory where you need to be to really start off and make your plays on the following turns. And also being a 5 play cost keeps him pretty protected as well. There's a lot of tamer deletion that we have in the game right now. Only targets usually 3 costs or less. But him being a 5 cost makes him harder to hit, because even like Blackwater Greymon, like BT8 Blackwater Greymon, he has to pop something with a play cost of 6 or less, like total between like Digimon and Tamers. So if he wants to pop this guy, he can only pop this guy. There's no rookie that plays for that has a play cost of 1 like as its thing, at least not that I can think of. If I'm wrong on that, I'm sure I'll get grilled out in the comments, but we'll find out. And then last but not least, so that's sort of our tamer lineup. We have 2 options that we run on the deck. 1 copy of Sunrise Buster and 1 copy of Yellow Memory Boost. So Yellow Memory Boost, I am considering taking out of the deck. It's good search, but there's so many times where I will play it trying to find a Greymon or something, and then I'll reveal 3 Marcus, and then I'll just, and like, I don't know, I'll reveal like a burst mode, and then I'll be missing a level 5 piece or something, and I'll just be like, that's not great, obviously. So it's good when it comes out of security for the memory gain. It's good when you do hit the pieces and you don't bottom deck Marcuses, but it's so inconsistent with that like, obviously, like if we had the training cards that we're getting, I think, as box toppers in BT14, then yes, this card would be, if we had those already, that would be in the deck, and this card would not be here, but we don't. So it's helped me in a few pinches. It's definitely, it came out of security I think twice during the championship, and both times it did win me the game, because I just had the memory I needed to really make the big turn play that I needed. But otherwise, that is the card I would consider cutting to maybe put in one more like BT12 Geo Gray. Potentially, but you know, it's all up to you. You could also just not run that, and you could just run another like heavier control option or something like that. And then last card that we have for the deck is Sunrise Buster. That was I think I was gonna say, unfortunately, that's the first word that jumped to my mind, but realistically it was a not so well balanced card, so it is probably more fortunate that it was restricted to 1. Simply because you know, it's a 5 play cost, so it's not the most expensive option in the world. It's gonna go ahead and play out a yellow or red tamer for free, any yellow or red tamer, and then it's gonna go ahead and minus 3000 DP on one of your opponent's Digimon for each yellow and or red tamer you have in play. Which, like, if we still had this at 4 with all these Marcus, could you imagine the chaos that we could bring? Like, I'd probably, like, I'd just say like, no, drop that down to 2, take this out, run 3 of these bad boys. Shit, take that out. Run 4 of those bad boys, and then when this thing is checked in security, oh, Marcus. Oh, Marcus. Oh, Marcus. Like, it just does so much work. It's such a cracked option card, and it definitely needed to be restricted. And speaking of restrictions too, I know there's talk about Shine getting restricted. I've seen recently off some of like the Japanese meta reports that shout out to East, by the way, fantastic DigiTuber. And YouTuber just in general. He provides really, really good content. From what I've been seeing on his list and other lists elsewhere too, Shine has been sort of falling off, and I don't know if it's just popularity or if it is just sort of being power crept, because there is so much other crazy stuff. Like apparently Apocalymon's an issue, but yeah, this card definitely needed to be restricted, and if any card was to get restricted in this deck, hopefully it'll be the BT13 Geo Gray, because I think that would slow it down enough to where the deck wouldn't die. If they hit the BT12 Marcus, it's going to be a tough hill to climb, fellas, ladies and gents. So yeah, that's the deck profile. This is the deck that got me the Store Champs. It played really well. I've played the deck a lot. You'll be able to see me mauled or not mauled in some of our cam games on the channel. But overall, I'm very happy with it, and I like it. And I wanted to do physical cards for it because I have it pretty much max rarity outside of running 3 binaries, which, I mean, I do have 1 binary, which is a nice little flex, but it's too expensive of a card to run 3 of it, or to buy 3 more of it and run it in a deck, because I want to keep 1 separately and safe. But yeah, that's deck profile. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like it. helps our channel and you know, just all of our stuff immensely. And on top of helping the channel, if you aren't already subscribed, please do. We're putting out a lot of content. We put out weekly videos from our locals. Ben is constantly uploading different deck profiles and meta discussions with those decks. He goes very in depth with how they function. I just sort of, I'm not going to go into the whole meta of everything, but I just wanted to try and be a little bit elaborate with all of the deck pieces and its choices, because it is, you know, it did win a championship. So, you know, hopefully that's worth some salt. We also have our podcast too that we really enjoy doing. Myself, Ben, Jarrell, and Arby, and if we can maybe start bringing some guests back. It's been hard. People have been really busy recently, but yeah, that's it for this, and thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Bye bye.